Alright, so this one is a little different than I thought it was going to be 24 hours ago. But that's okay because we have kind of this one and then one we're kind of planning for the future. The original plan was to do this with Raiders of the Lost Ark. But we're going to do kind of an Indiana Jones theme thing later on down the road whenever our paths cross again.
National Treasure is the Indiana Jones of the new millennium.
I didn't do that on purpose. I swear. This one was your idea, though.
I know.
You told me on the phone, so that just occurred to me.
I know.
So yeah, we'll blame you. But yeah, even though we only have one here, we're going to talk about both of them. And I guess, yeah, just to see which one is better, I guess.
Sure.
I don't remember how many, I don't know if enough people remember that Book of Secrets exists.
It kind of came and went.
But this one's still sticking around. You still hear people talk about this one, actually, so...
Yeah, and I think you should start because you were the one that said that you didn't care for it. You didn't see all the hullabub.
Yeah.
And you just revisited it for the first time, and the verdict is...
Well, this came out in, what, 2004?
Mm-hmm.
So
I was working at the theater.
Damn. That feels like forever
I was
ago.
working at the theater where I could see every movie for free, and I didn't see this one till years later. Years later.
What was the context of you seeing it the first time?
I saw it, and I was like, oh shit, I haven't seen this yet, and everybody loves it, and I watched it. And I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's, well, I wasn't really that into it, but then again, you'll also know that, maybe it's the adventure genre in general, because I'm not a humongous Indiana Jones guy either.
You gotta save that for the next review.
Oh, you'll love that one.
Gotta save it.
So,
Be prepared, Internet. He doesn't like Raiders.
except for the fact that I haven't watched it in about 10 years. We'll see what happens, just like I did with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's not bad. My main problem with it before was, really, I just wasn't into it. Like, I didn't even necessarily see it as bad or anything. Just nothing remotely interesting to me. And it kind of felt, because it's brought to us by Disney, and this would have been, like, the year after they did Pirates. Mm-hmm. So all that Disney adventure stuff kind of felt like it was all blending together at once in that area, back at that time. And it actually even kind of feels almost like they kind of take on a few different genres or whatever. I'm unsubtly referring to my notes now. Mm-hmm. They actually kind of bring on. It seems like they tried to bring on different genres in it, and not just with the adventure thing kind of as the whole picture. Because in there, it kind of feels like, obviously I said they had just come off Pirates. Mm-hmm. So, towards the beginning there, like with the altercation with Sean Bean, where Sean Bean turns. Surprising.
Never trust Sean Bean.
And at least they did it at the beginning.
Ask Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
And Ewan McGregor. And the Rings people. And anybody in general, don't trust Sean Bean.
Except, maybe this isn't normal, average, everyday Sean Bean because he survives the movie.
He's the villain and survives.
That was as shocking as him being the savior in Jupiter Ascending and somehow made it off that farmhouse alive. It's insane. I think that's why a lot of people think Jupiter Ascending sucks. It couldn't even make Sean Bean die to work.
Yeah.
But they seem to, like, there are little things in there like the gunpowder trail that's lighting, and the fact that they're just looking for, like, buried treasure practically. It almost kind of feels like, not a pirate movie necessarily, but those little elements that remind you of pirate movies, both present day and in the past, like when Errol Flynn was making, like, Captain Blood and the Seahawk and all them.
For me, I think I like this too, because right now we're in an age of movies where it seemed like everybody counts on realism. And this story, from like the very first clue to the treasure, the movie just constantly jumps the shark with its history, but it makes it fun. Because like in its own little universe, you can make sense of it. In like the real world, it's completely asinine, but in the movie environment, I find it really fun.
What I really love about that, about how they take liberties with history and all that and just make it pretty dumb, is that's why I really love Cage here. As I've talked about how much I love Cage. And the way that Cage is game for anything. Like, people shit on him because of it. He just chooses any movie, it seems. But I love that he's game for pretty much anything and everything, no matter how dumb it is. Because when you see him saying, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence, and he's saying, like in the second one when he sasays, I'm going to kidnap the President of the United States.
I know, you look at it and you're like, well, yeah, Nicolas Cage would do that, sure.
But that's the thing, is when he's talking about this stuff, he's like, when other actors would do this movie, you would see, like, you can tell they're in, you know, a Disney adventure movie and they're going to treat it that way. Cage is super serious in every line he delivers that's not supposed to be comedic. It's like he's taking this 150% seriously.
Yeah, Cage, it's like he really buys into the story.
And I think that's what makes, he was the perfect choice for the lead. Because not only can he do the action movie thing really well, he can do that. He can deliver this dialogue and feel so passionate about it.
And normally, I know a lot of people normally would find this character annoying, but I love the way that Justin Bartha's character kind of counteracts that with his sarcasm. I think it's a good counter to Cage's down-to-earth seriousness of the matter.
Yeah.
Like, I noticed you laughed at a few things that Justin Bartha said.
Yeah,
and the way he reacted to things.
Because back in 2004, I was pretty sick of big blockbuster movies and their comedy relief, because it just all felt the same. But I do have more of an appreciation for that now. Like back in the day, I was in my early teens, so bear with me. But pretty much anything that tried to be comedy relief in a movie that wasn't ultimately a comedy, I just shunned on principle. So I don't really remember how I felt at the time, but I probably did not like Justin Bartha's character the first time I saw this.
Probably not. It probably didn't help your cause. But I like how he bounces off Cage's character. I like the chemistry between the two of them.
And going back to the feel, too, I also like that at the beginning when Christopher Plummer's telling the story, which ultimately I just realized is Christopher Plummer's only scene. And
probably because by the time Cage is an adult, he's dead.
Yeah. Long dead. And like, I think we're supposed to realize that he's on the verge of it, like, at that time. But the thing is number one, it's kind of like... So yeah, he's kind of like Peter Falk in The Princess Bride, and then that's what he does. But at the same time, when he's telling this story, it also has the vibe of like when he's just the Christopher Plummer scene by itself at the beginning feels like more of like the 90s Disney adventure movies we would have grown up with. I know this is only 4 years off from the 90s, so that's not a big deal, but what I mean is it feels like one of those movies we would have grown up with. And how it kind of captured that era of Disney, like, 10 years prior to this.
I mean, when you get down to it, the movies aren't great movies, but I find them enjoyable.
Yeah. But that's pretty much their only purpose, I suppose. I mean, at the same time, I do hear people say... It just depends on how I feel about the movie, quite honestly, where my bias lies. But sometimes I hear that about a movie, and I think, yeah, that's true, I agree with you, but then there's other movies I heard about where it's like, you can say that all you want, the movie's still a piece of shit. It just depends on if the movie is actually... Like, the entertainment value of a movie, like, really does matter in regards to how you're going to react to it in general, because if this movie wasn't entertaining, then we would be picking apart all the history they got wrong and all the stupid shit in it. But because it's entertaining enough, that's where it has the power on us as an audience, that we can just say, we'll just run with it.
And I would say a lot of people find the second one forgettable because the second one does feel like a major retread.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the reason they're hunting for the treasure is borderline reaching.
Because I was going to say that too. Are we on the second one already? Or are we going back and forth?
We're kind of back and forth in it.
Because the thing I wanted to bring up about the second one was, it seems like it's kind of... Do you feel like maybe it could have been... Like, I don't have an example on hand in case you were wondering, but the idea of using Lincoln's assassination to give his character backstory and what's going to drive the story from the start... Do you think that seemed a bit easy to go with a historical event that's so recognizable? And so, say they went with something that was an actual historical event, but much less well-known, it almost seems like it would have been... The writers would have had to put a lot more effort into it. Whereas just going with Lincoln's assassination, they know exactly how that's written and exactly how it goes down because it's been portrayed so many times before. It just seems really easy on the writer's part to go with, well, we'll make the historical event in this one Lincoln's assassination because that's easy. Yeah,
but Lincoln's assassination only plays a minor part.
It keeps coming back, though.
It does, but, it doesn't... And it's the underlying reason why they decide to do it, because he wants to clear his dad's name and all that, but... I mean, you could, but I mean... After as many times as you jumped the shark in the first one, for some people it's probably welcome that they pick an actual historic event.
Yeah, and they do kind of... Another thing I was talking about, how they seem to I say this very, very loosely, don't get the wrong idea. The way it plays with genres a little bit. Or at least, every now and then it almost kind of feels like a spy thing. It seems like an ode to Bond. when he pulls off the jumpsuit and the tux is underneath, and he does that again in the sequel. But then they go the route of having, like, it seems like as soon as he says, we're going to steal the Declaration of Independence, and we see the layout of the plan and all that we think from here on out it's going to be like a heist movie. But that's really only the first half. Like, the heist is actually one of the simplest parts of the movie. Like, the whole... Like, the line everybody reverts back to this movie is, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. That's the easy part of the movie.
Yeah, from there it gets a lot harder. And I know you and I were talking about when we were watching the movies, the funny part is to watch Nicolas Cage's character do all this work, and the villains get it so easy.
Yeah, that's kind of... what I was thinking was it would probably be a lot more interesting if Sean... Because he tells us... We don't really see it, but he just tells us later that Sean Bean's character is really smart and he has, like, all those resources. But it's like, for the whole movie, we're just kind of... Like, it would have been more interesting if it was more of a... It almost feels like it's a race to the Declaration of Independence at the start. But then, once they've got it, it turns less into a race for it and more a... They're doing something, and Ian is following. And that's all it is. Like, it would have been more interesting if Ian was a lot smarter, or at least portrayed as a lot smarter, and was getting to places faster than they were. And there was a back and forth like that. But just kind of having him follow the whole movie is very... The character doesn't have much to do, and doesn't really add a lot to the urgency of it all. Then I was asking you...
And Ed Harris's character in the sequel's the same way.
Yeah.
But they don't play up that he's smart because they don't know who he is. But
it's so easy for Ed Harris, too, because of the phone thing.
Yeah.
Like, every time Ed Harris needs to know something, it's just like, well, just listen to Jon Voight's phone, and then that's all it takes.
If you think about it, it's kind of smart, though, because that kind of prevents people from saying, how did he know that? Oh, he listened to a Jon Voight call.
It's one of those things where I suppose the one place you can't fault it is... It's like that thing that a lot of people like to point out in other movies where somebody uses something to their advantage and then we never see them do that again.
We do see that brought back a couple times.
If he had just listened to Jon Voight's phone once and never again, the audience would be saying, why doesn't he do that every time?
Because he learned so much from that. He learned the first time they went to London. He learned that Nicolas Cage's mom could interpret something. He learned there was something to interpret.
We watched that movie about 3 hours ago. If he didn't use Jon Voight's phone multiple times, we'd still be watching the movie.
Yeah.
That's why it's so convenient.
Yeah.
But another thing I do, and I also liked the way they use... I was talking about the comedy relief with Justin Bartha, and sometimes it's like, yeah, okay, and then obviously Cage gets his moments. Like the big British scene in the second one, where he has to cause a scene and gets to really Cage out. But I also like sometimes when they actually use it, like when it doubles as something to kind of drive the story as well as being comedic. Like the scene when he goes through the gift shop, and the woman thinks he's stealing one of the Declaration things, and he has to pay for it. Where it's a comedic scene, but it's also an obstacle for him to get out, so it acts as a double thing with that. So I like if they can use it.
It even turns into a plot point of how they find his real identity because they run his credit card.
Yeah, I didn't care for the fact that they did use that as not only is the switch off a cliche where they trade it off and Sean Bean gets the fake one, but you can see it from a mile away. And that takes pretty much all the suspense out of what is essentially a really good chase scene. But it's like the whole time you're just like, he's going to get a fake one, you know? And there's no suspense here whatsoever. But that's still a good scene from John Turteltaub. Do you know what John Turteltaub did before these?
No.
Off the top of my head, While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock. And I believe he did Phenomenon, the Travolta movie.
Oh.
And then he went on to do these. It's like, if I had known who he was going into this in 2004, I would have thought, how the fuck is that guy going to make an action movie? So, yes.
I do think a lot of these movies' likability factor in the end, though, comes from Cage.
Yeah.
And the fact that he is
Which you can just say about so many of his movies.
Yeah, you really could.
That's why I've seen so many. One thing that I didn't necessarily... A couple of things I don't care for in this movie that does kind of go into the sequel, too. This first bit definitely for the sequel, which is... people... They spend... Both movies are too long. Can we agree on that? At least a little bit.
They're just over 2 hours.
Because their climaxes are too long, and they kind of drag out and drag out and drag out. But before that, we also have these scenes where people just go on in dialogue when they probably could be doing something. Like I was just talking about in the first movie when they go to John Voight's house and they have the Declaration of Independence. That was the whole thing, and now they just need to look at the clue. But before they look at the clue, they have to have like a 10-minute scene where they argue with John Voight about whether the clue they haven't looked at yet is going to be worthwhile or not. And it's like, you've got the fucking thing, just look at it. You didn't even have to go to John Voight's house to do this. You could have done it right in that little van you were sitting in when you were debating, oh no, I got to go see John Voight and tell him what I just did.
Well, they went to John Voight because he needed those letters that he thought John Voight had. And then John Voight, like, kind of strings them along, and then he's like, oh, I don't have them. And then they're like, they give him the, like, the fuck you look.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the climaxes seem like they go on for a really long time. I know it's like, yeah, we've had all this build-up, going from here to here to here to here. This is going to be the big place we end up, so let's spend some time there. But I still think they drown, especially the sequel, where the sequel feels less, like, with the stuff and the... It's like, it feels less like an Indiana Jones movie and more like Mario Party.
Okay. You're gonna have to elaborate on that.
Well, like when they're on the thing and they have to, not fall off. And then when they have to, like, climb shit and then all the
Teetering
water's
towers, you mean?
Yeah, there's that. I believe that's in a few of the games. You have to balance on this shit. And then once the water coming in, they had all this, then, yeah. It just, I don't know. It just seemed like a lot. And
like you gotta put the thing in the thing and then do this and then do that kind of thing.
And then, of course, the cliche Ed Harris thing. Though I did say, to his credit, you do kind of feel bad for Mitch when he's talking about why he's been doing all this. So it's like, that's one of the cases where maybe the bad guy going good isn't too bad, because he just wanted his family.
Which is funny, because his cause was a little bit better than Sean Bean's, and Sean Bean got to live. And Ed Harris didn't.
But that was his own choice, though, I suppose.
Yeah.
Diane Kruger. I didn't like how they handled her at first, because once again, it's very, very cliche female character in an action movie, where they go to her, and then it's the biggest cliche known to man. Oh, this guy's gonna be so hard, this man's really sticking it to us, and this is a very cute man, and it's, oh no, a beautiful woman? Oh my god, I never saw that coming. But I do kind of like the back and forth they have when he's basically trying to say to her what's going on, and what he has to do, and what the Declaration of Independence and all that. And he's trying to dance around it with big words he thinks she won't understand, and she's simplifying it as he's saying it. So that kind of puts her character in a bit of a place where it's not just, oh, she's the attractive woman, and that's all she is.
She's almost on his level.
But then again, they do the bullshit, the PG sexual tension, where they're changing clothes. You have that PG sexual tension, and then when it finally gets to the point where they kiss, it's like, hold on, why? Where was it? Because they were apart for most of the movie by the time the kiss happened, and it's like, this is just the screenwriting 101 scene where they kiss, because that's what these movies do. It doesn't matter that they don't really connect.
Do you think it would have made it stronger if they didn't end up hooking up?
Kind of. Certainly would have fixed the cliche in the second movie where they've broken up and they have to bicker before she helps him.
I warned you, the sequel had a lot of bickering.
To be fair, it's kept it more of a minimum than you would expect.
Yeah.
And secondly, the John Voight Helen Mirren bickering, at least the first scene, is actually kind of funny. So, when he's like being very accusing her of all the bad things in their relationship.
Yeah.
I also really like Harvey Keitel, and he's not there very much in the he doesn't really do much in the sequel, but in the first movie, the way he's like real sarcastic about the crime scenes and just the way he goes about it reminds me of Paul Smecker, Willem Dafoe's character from the Boondock Saints.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes.
What other notes do you have down?
For the first movie, I think that might be about it. I do think that not only do as far as the movies being too long, not only does the dead-end dialogue put us in a corner, all the fake-outs we can see coming from a mile away, there's a lot of those.
Fake-outs, like
trading off the wrong Declaration of Independence, and throwing him the empty case, and then a whole lot of the bait and switch stuff, thinking they're really clever. I mean, it's like Now You See Me levels of bad, where a movie thinks it's ahead of you when you're like 100 steps ahead of it. But still, yes. Most of my stuff now is on the sequel. Did you have anything else you need to say about the first one?
So what are your high points of the first one?
I do think I really like that chase scene. I especially like that moment that's really tense when he's like out the window and she's on the door and that bus comes between them. And they have to. That's a pretty intense scene for a Disney movie and just for a movie on this level. I was like, this chase scene's too good for this movie. On top of the fact that it has no stakes, because you know Sean Bean won't have the real fucking Declaration of Independence anyway.
What do you think of the puzzle stuff?
And it's alright. As we were talking about, this actually predates the Da Vinci Code movie, but given the fact that those books have been around forever, we can still say it's very Da Vinci Code. Like it's almost like they were trying to beat Ron Howard to the Da Vinci Code by making this movie almost.
I feel like this one's I like this one better than Da Vinci Code though, because Da Vinci Code's kind of
slow.
Not only that, but Da Vinci Code. I felt like I could keep up with this pretty easily. Da Vinci Code felt almost over my head.
But you know what the big thing about Da Vinci Code is Da Vinci Code is just as ridiculous as this movie is. But the fact that it's taken itself so seriously.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you really have to take the Da Vinci Code so seriously is its biggest fault. And this one doesn't give a fuck if you take it seriously or not.
Yeah. It's just there to entertain you and have some fun. And kill a couple hours.
Another thing, going on the prolonged stuff about the sequel, another scene I didn't really care for was the bike cops. I feel like it would have been an okay scene, but all I could think was, it's like Jonah Hill and James Haven at the beginning of 21 Jump Street. But then it's just like, that scene went on for a really long damn time. And I think it was supposed to get funnier as it went, but it just got more, okay, you can hurry the fuck up now.
Like after they translated it for Cage, they could have just got on their bikes and rode off. And
yeah, another thing I didn't really care for about the sequel was, when you talk about the fact that the stakes aren't really there, but another thing, and you talk about how it always seems to take the easy way out, especially with how Sean Bean and Ed Harris's characters are treated. I know it's a dumb movie and everything, but I mean, still, the sequel, the characters take a lot of gambles that they may not necessarily need to. Really, really big gambles that somehow always work out. Like the, I'll speed through the stoplight and do this.
That picture keeps coming back, too.
And there's the, when he goes to the President Bruce Greenwood, and he shows him the tunnel on the map, it's like he was really, really betting on Bruce Greenwood saying, hey, we should check that out. It was just that simple. He has it just as easy as the bad guy sometimes. But yeah, and then when he shows the picture from the stoplight to John Voight, he's like, well, I can't read all of it. It's like, no fucking shit. But he still does that cliche that's in all the crime shows on TV. It's like, enhance, and it always works. So we're about to run out of battery, but... and it does... I do like that he kind of skips... I think the book is a great idea. But
you mean the President's book?
Yeah, and I do love that he kind of skips over the JFK thing. I like to think that's a reference to the end of The Rock. Where it's like, yeah, I already know what happened there. So.
I do love how, like, Riley's trying to point stuff out, and he's just like, no.
Yeah.
like, the movie could have gone in so many different directions, and it just, this Cage going, no, not right now.
So, yeah, but overall, yeah, the sequel is certainly lesser, even with Ty Burrell in it.
The one thing I do like about the sequel, I know we're running out of battery, but one thing I like about the sequel is I feel like Cage's character got a little more personality in the sequel.
Mainly the British thing.
Well, not just that, but like the little joke he plays when he sticks his hand in the hole that was in all the trailers.
Yeah, like the Roman holiday callback. That has to be what that is. He doesn't say that, but I was expecting him to.
Yeah.
And the thing when they're in the shaft with the flowers, that conversation where he's like peeking through the manor.
Yeah, it's definitely, Cage gets to be more Cage in the second one.
Yeah, there's a lot of caging out in this one. It's like almost like they were trying to restrain him in the first one, but he still has those moments where his eyes bulge. And
yeah.
So what was it? Was it the first or second one when he's talking about cutting their entrails out and burning them? Like he just
first one.
He really briefly caged out,
It's
and then he reeled back in.
It's when he's doing the toast. Because then when the toast is done, they take like a sip and he just drinks the whole thing.
Yeah, that's because that's where I said leaving Las Vegas starts.
Yeah.
Just prior.
Yeah. So overall, your impressions of these movies better than you remember?
Yeah,
the same as you remember?
Better, but I do feel about Book of Secrets. I think it's perfectly mentioned in that Family Guy joke, where the two guys come out of the theater and they're like, "I'm so glad I saw National Treasure 2. It answered all the questions I had after National Treasure 1.
If they ever made another one, not now, but if they had made one, let's say 2 years after the second one, would you have checked it out?
Probably. Just
well, I know you watch them all.
That's what I do.
But I mean, like, would you have watched it like,
for fun?
Yeah.
Probably. So yeah, there's always the chance they'll get better, especially with movies like this. Sometimes they luck out. So, but yeah, they're fun. They're better than I remember. But I do think 2 is a pretty. 2's going to be like we just watched it. I'm probably going to forget 2 next week, and I'll have to watch it all over again in a few years or something.
President Bruce Greenwood.
Yes. So I think is that it?
The Randy Travis cameo.
Yeah.
What's your real quick before what are your thoughts on Jon Voight in these movies?
I think he's fine. It feels very similar to his role in Tomb Raider, if I'm being honest. It's like he's the father of a globe-trotting adventurer / whatever the fuck Lara Croft is. I haven't seen those movies in forever.
Yeah.
But
So overall impression, first one is enjoyable, not great, but enjoyable. Second one's forgettable, a lot of same with the first one.
Yeah, and I was being too hard on them before, I suppose. Very fun. Probably because I've seen so much shit since 2004. It's like this looks good in comparison because I've seen a lot of movies like it now that just fucking suck.
Do you think the comment on the back is justified that it's like today's version of Indiana Jones?
Maybe for like
a younger
like
generation.
kids that are gonna grow up on it. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But they obviously aren't gonna stand the same test of time by any means.
No. I think the first one could because people still talk about the first one.
Yeah, but it's hard to tell if they're talking about it ironically or not, though.
True.
So,
True.
Whereas Indiana Jones mostly has that respect there at Wanda. So yeah, that's it for these. And we'll do something similar to this with the Indiana Jones movies. Like I said, whenever we meet again, whenever that is. And then obviously for next week, I'll do another Fargo thing. There's the Alien review, and then whatever the next one of these is.
Yeah. If anybody out there knows how to do split screen, because I'm not in the same town, let us know, and then we can do more videos together.
That's probably technology I don't have, but is probably able to be figured out in some way by somebody we know. So, yes. Anything else you want to add?
No.
All right, then. I guess we're done here.